It's Yulia, and today I'm talking about how to help your high schooler gain more independence when it comes to the tasks that they need to complete, mainly homework, but also chores and other responsibilities. How do you help them do that without micromanaging and nagging them to death? I'm going to dive into the 6 different pieces of advice. These are things that I apply when I'm coaching your kids. So hi parents, it's Yulia, executive function coach based out of Los Angeles, California. And this question, I'm going to read it to you. It's from a Facebook comment in the private parent group that is run by Jean Harville. And right now, as you watch this, it is day 7 of the Masterclass series called Unleash Your Kids' Genius. It is absolutely free. I have the link below for you to sign up and get instant access. And every day what's going to happen is you will have access for 24 hours to one expert. It's just one a day. It's not overwhelming like some of the other conferences where there's so many experts a day. One a day. Pick a topic that really resonates with you. And today it's Sunday, and I know it's Super Bowl Sunday, but if you can make time, 30-40 minutes. The speaker today is Elaine Taylor Klaus, and she is an amazing coach for parents. I have learned a lot from Elaine over the years, and I've been to a couple of her workshops, and she is fantastic. I highly recommend that you watch her. So this question comes from a mom of a 14-year-old boy, and she says, I'd love to hear more about the gray area between micromanaging and scaffolding my almost 14-year-old son. He doesn't really want help, but is a hot mess without it. He starts high school next year, and we'd all, including him, would love to see him make his own breakfast, lunch, and get out the door every morning with minimal guidance. Wake up, get down to eat, finish getting dressed, have to leave in 5 minutes, 1 minute now to catch the bus. Those are all examples of, what the morning looks like. But it seems impossible. Afternoons and homework management are similar, yet without that constant reminding and nagging, it just doesn't get done. No amount of timers and abandoned planners seem to help. I feel so stuck. This question is so common that when I read this comment, I thought there's just no way I can give a simple answer in a comment. So I promised this mom I would make a video, and I'll be posting this in the group for you. So hopefully this is helpful. We're going to dive into the 6 pointers that I have isolated. I wrote my notes down for myself, so I will be referencing them to make sure I don't leave anything out. Okay, so how to get from nagging and micromanaging and how to navigate that gray area so that you can actually pull back and allow your child to have more responsibility over their work without completely abandoning them to their own devices. So what's that gray zone, parents? All right. The first thing I have to talk about here is connection. You want to show your child that your child, is more important than the task. Help them feel that you care way more about them than that task getting done, and actually mean it, parents. Sometimes we get so stuck in the day-to-day hustle that we forget that we're dealing with a kid here, a kid who has emotional needs, a kid who has their own agenda and their own priorities. And what's important for parents to do is to stay connected and consistently emotionally, intimately connect with your child so that you can continue learning about them as they grow and develop and figuring out what is meaningful to them. What are their beliefs? What are their values? What do they care about? And what are their goals? And what is causing them resistance toward a certain task? What it's going to do when you connect with your kid is they're going to develop a relationship with you that feels more comforting. They're going to feel seen, heard, and understood by you. And they're going to feel like they can authentically express themselves around you. And this is so important because so many times kids just tell you what they think you want to hear to get you off their back. And then the second you're gone, they're back to their original agenda, which is most likely to avoid anything that's not preferred. So first is to establish a connection, make them feel way more important than the task, because they are. Okay. Number 2 is you want to do a check-in. take a temperature check. And I like to do this on scales of 1 to 10. So once you're done connecting and hearing about their day and helping them unpack any emotions that they might have, you want to go a little bit deeper and take a temperature check. And I like to ask about the difficulty level on the scale of 1 to 10. I'd like to ask their stress level on a scale of 1 to 10. I'd like to ask about how resistant they feel to the activity. I'd like to ask about their relationship with the teacher, how they feel in the class, whether they feel the teacher's fair, where she talks really fast or they have a lot of knowledge gaps, how confident and comfortable are they with that material. Help them to think through, and what you're doing is you're trying to detect any challenges that might come down the road that you can problem solve along the way now during this conversation. And parents, I want to caution you against listening in order to respond. Your kid can feel when you're listening just to respond and lecture them about what to do or let them know how to do something. I want to caution you against that. I want you to listen just to understand and continue to ask them questions so that your child can do the thinking for themselves. So if you're listening and you hear that there might be a roadblock, you want to say, okay, this seems like a challenge to you. How are you going to overcome this challenge? Or it seems that on a scale of 1 to 10 that you understand about 6 out of 10, about 60%. How do you plan on filling that knowledge gap? And listen to hear what their own solutions are. And sometimes your kids have amazing solutions. Like they say, oh, well, my friend and I have decided to check in with each other at this time tonight so that we can work together on it. That's a great solution to that problem that you may not have understood without having this type of conversation. So once you've connected, once they have explained to you, how they're doing, how they're feeling, then you want to help them create a plan, and you want them to do most of the planning. I want to caution you here that the process of this is more important than the outcome. Don't worry so much about whether that plan is perfect or the way you would do it, or is it really going to work. The fact that your child is allowing you to help them plan, that's a big deal. So stay with it. Ask them, what are you going to do next? What about this? Okay, then what? How long is that going to take you? What obstacles can you see getting in your way? What's going to happen if that takes you longer? What's your priority for today? If you could get one thing done, what would that be? And what can wait? Is there anything you might be forgetting? Should we check your planner? Should we check the online system? Help them make a very concrete plan for themselves where they know how long something is going to take, what do they need to do, and from what time to what time they're going to do it. I call this a 3-step plan, and there are other videos where I dive deeper into this process, and I'll link one above here so that you can check it out. Next, once they have a plan, make sure it is written somewhere. It doesn't matter if it's on a little sheet like this. It can be on an index card. It could be on a sticky note. It can be on their computer. It can be on a whiteboard. You can get dry erase markers and write stuff on mirrors, on windows. Get their buy-in. Ask them where they would prefer to keep it, but make it a principle that once you have a plan, you write it down and you put it up somewhere where you can see it. This is really important because if your kid struggles with executive function, once it's out of sight, it's out of mind. We don't have the type of working memory where we can rely on our memory to juggle that many details. It will fall out of their head. They will forget to do something. So make it a point to talk about that you do not rely on memory, and you can push your child a little bit if they're resistant, to practice this. So once you have it posted, the next step is accountability. So this is step number 4. How are you going to help your child be accountable to their plan? And you can ask them this question and wait for them to give you an answer. Sometimes your kid's going to say, don't worry, mom and dad, I got it. Thank you for helping me with this, but I got it. You don't have to check in. Don't worry about it. I'm going to get it done. Okay, but if you know that that's not the case, parents, you might say, okay, I trust that you're going to get it done, but let's just have a check-in point where we're going to check in and see how far you've progressed. And a great way to frame this once you have that check-in point is to, when you check in, to ask them, okay, are you as far along as you thought you would be at this time? If so, you celebrate and you ask them what their next step is and prompt them to transition into that next activity. Or maybe they need to take a break. Okay, are you tired now? Are you hungry? Check in with yourself. What do you need? Do you need a break? Can you continue working? Etc. Another reason for the check-in is they might have veered off task during that initial time period, and that check-in is going to help them to keep accountable and remake their plan in case something didn't go according to plan, which should be expected, parents. I rarely expect the students I'm working with to actually fully follow through on the plan. It happens, but it's not as common. In the beginning, you just want to practice planning, practice reflecting, and practice adjusting that plan. I can't stress enough how much more important that skill is than probably whatever they're doing for homework, right, parents? So it's okay to let your kid fail a little bit and not get all their work turned in, because this process is going to help them get better and better at that over time. I believe executive function skills are way more important to learn than a lot of the content in school. That's my philosophy. And I'd like to actually talk very openly about that with the students I'm working with so that they know, because sometimes they're like, I don't see why I need to do this. I just have homework to do. This is taking longer to plan. I don't see why we need to invest time in it. So I will have that conversation. I will go back to connecting. If I'm feeling a lot of resistance and we get stuck, drop that expectation and just go back to connecting. Get to understand why. Where is their resistance coming from? Because you can't put your will on your child. They have to have buy-in at all times. So anytime you feel like, this isn't working, drop the expectation. What's more important, your kid or them, following through on this process? Okay. Once you have figured out when you're going to check in, parents, now it's up to you to actually follow through. What I see happening a lot is that parents are dropping the ball a lot. You're saying one thing, you're doing another thing. And I get it, you're busy, there's a lot on your mind, but if you're going to tell your kid that you're going to check in with them at a certain point in time, how are you going to remind yourself to do that? Because a lot of times parents, it's, some time goes by and you notice that your kids are done with their work and they're playing video games, and all of a sudden you're checking their stuff, you're realizing they're not done, and now you're getting upset with them. Now you're yelling at them to turn off the game and get back to their work and judging them for not, putting their priorities in order. But that's up to you, parents, to actually hold your kids accountable to their plan. And it's easy to lose track of that. So have your own system of how you're going to keep track, and put a lot of the responsibility on your kid, but be there as an accountability person for them that is reliable. Okay. After check-ins, what you want to do is celebrate the effort and the progress. You want to be careful not to celebrate the outcome too much, because what if the outcome isn't great? What if they got all the questions wrong on their math homework? Okay, so the point is not to focus on the outcome so much as you focus on the effort that they're putting in and the progress that they're making. Every single little micro victory counts, and sometimes they're really micro. For example, if your kid has a pattern of coming home and waiting till the last minute to start their homework at night, and they finish it but half of it's wrong or half of it's not done or it's crumpled up or whatever, if that's the pattern, any progress from that point is a victory. For example, if instead of starting their homework at 10 o'clock, they start at 6 o'clock, that's a victory. If you haven't been able to support them and they haven't been open to talking to you about their work, and this day you followed this method and you were able to connect and they were able to share with you how they feel or what some of their challenges are, that's a huge victory, parents. I want you to stop and I want you to say, you know what, this is so great that we can talk about it. I know this is difficult for you. I know that this is a trigger for you or whatever, it's difficult, it's uncomfortable. So I really appreciate that you trust me enough to talk to me about your challenges, and know that I'm here to listen and to guide and support you so that you can reach the goals that are meaningful to you. Maybe if that algebra homework isn't meaningful to your child, get to know what is, because that homework is a step toward them getting to that thing that's meaningful. So celebration is huge. So many times it's so easy to point out everything they did wrong or everything where they didn't measure up to their expectations. But parents, we don't celebrate effort enough. We don't celebrate victories enough. And there's this great quote that the bad stuff that happens to us, our negative thoughts and emotions, they stick like Velcro, and the positive stuff slides off like Teflon. So we need to keep encouraging and positively reinforcing our kids' effort. That's going to motivate them way more than pointing out all the mistakes that they've done. They know their mistakes, parents. They don't need you to point them out, but they do need your help reflecting on them in a non-judgmental space. So when you are focused on what went wrong, ask them to tell you and help them unpack and process that and come to some synthesis, some new idea that they have. Oh, you know, next time when this same thing happens, I'm going to try it a little differently. And then check in with them again and see how that worked better for them. So that leads us to the sixth part, which is reflection. Parents, if your kids have ADHD or they're differently wired, this ability for them to reflect on themselves and to figure out what worked and what didn't, it's not there. They need your help. They need you to be able to hold a really safe space where they can look back and analyze their behavior in a non-judgmental way. If you have a kid who does well and who works hard, but the entire time they're doing that, they're beating themselves up, that they're driven by fear, that they're driven by shame, that homework time is a huge battle and there's lots of tears, but eventually they get it done, what is that teaching them to do? That's teaching them, how to get the stuff done. But what about their relationship to the task? What about their relationship to themselves? What about their ability to actually feel fulfilled from doing all the work and their ability to manage their stress and manage their frustration? If they're not learning that skill, how successful really can they be? Even if they're financially successful or they have that job that they want, how fulfilling is it going to be when they have a relationship with themselves and the task that feels so icky? Okay, so I really want you to focus on the relationship and supporting them emotionally. Your kid probably needs way more emotional support from you so that they could tolerate their frustration, so that they could sit in their uncomfortable feelings and unpack them long enough to learn that lesson and move on and grow. You want your kids to know that you have a growth mindset, and that's the mindset you want them to adopt, is that, okay, this is difficult right now. This is frustrating right now. But as long as I keep practicing, it's going to get better and better, and it's going to become more and more natural and more of a habit. Okay, so most important thing I could tell you here, parents, is if you're entering this interaction and you are frustrated or you are a ball of stress or you're bringing your own crap from the day to your kid, to this interaction, they're going to feel all that pressure from you, all that frustration and your own fear, and that's going to cause them to not want to be around you. Think about it, parents. Who are you influenced by? Who are the types of people that you love asking for help from or you love being with? Who are the people that fill your bucket and make you feel amazing and special and unique and smart? Those are the people that you're going to allow to influence you. So if your pattern of interacting with your kid about homework is so explosive and so frustrating, then you know it's time to drop all of those demands and to really set aside those expectations and focus on connecting first. Focus on helping your kid feel amazing, get to an emotional place where they can actually feel proud and happy and be focused. Because you know what? If you're not having fun, you're not learning. If you're not having fun, you're not learning. Okay, parents. So to wrap this up, the process is way more important than the outcome. And I want you to drill this deep in your mind, that the process that you are practicing is more important than the outcome. I want you to expect that in the beginning, the outcome's not going to probably meet your expectations. And that's okay, as long as your kid is taking the next step, as long as they're invested and they have buy-in to continue to grow and get better. That's the holy grail. And every single day, push them a little bit more to meet slightly higher expectation. And eventually you'll notice that you'll get to the point where they're more independent and they're more capable of doing it on their own. And don't worry about being there to support them. Don't worry about having to sit next to them while they do their work. You're not babying them, parents. You are helping them. Your child needs you. And what you want to make sure you're doing is you are helping them to grow rather than helping them stay stuck and needing your help in certain ways. You want their problems to get better, and you want them to learn slowly how to solve their own problems. With that, I'm signing off on this video. It's a little bit longer than usual, but I wanted to make sure to get to these 6 points, and I wanted to make sure to talk about Elaine Taylor-Klaus, who is live for 24 hours today. Please catch her talk, even if you're super busy. Leave it on in the background, and I promise you, you will learn something that's going to be a game changer in your relationship, and you're going to apply it, and you're going to be so happy you did. Thanks so much, parents. I'll talk to you in our next video.